Good morning, dear boys and girls. And today I'm going to take up one lesson from novel Deliverance by Munshi Premchand. Munshi Premchand Munshi Premchand was born on 31st July, and he left his village and he became a headmaster in a school, and he married and a child widow, and Shivarani Devi, and he had started working as in the British government as and then Premchand resigned his job, and then he fought for independence, and he chaired the first All India Conference and Indian Progressive Writers Association, and he died on 8th. When you think of Premchand, Premchand is like an extraordinary writer and down yet. He was revolutionary in his thinking and his writing. He wrote a number of novels and short stories. These short stories, the basic structure of this short stories is based on rural background. Common man is the hero, and common problems are here. The problems faced by a common man, he is taking up and trying to write stories. And these stories have a deeper impact on the audience. That's why he is remembered and cherished as a glorious writer and epic writer. Rather, a number of novels he wrote it, number of short stories he wrote it, and the people loved because it's though he wrote it in Hindi, the stories and the novels have been translated to all world languages, shows the popularity, and naturally, and he belonged to the time of the freedom struggle. Naturally, there was a freedom struggle going on, and the characters that have written Deliverance will be seen. Deliverance is rather when a man dies and he is going to have a kind of a soul is reaching the master's soul and divine soul, and there is a kind of deliverance. Deliverance is liberation of the soul. And the story starts here. Okay. The story starts with here, Dukhi is the tanner. Tanner is the one who will be working with the skin, and a cobbler, and he is giving the leather to the person, and Julia is his wife. They live in a very small, tiny village, and they lead a simple life, and very, very near to nature, and their needs are very simple. They have a small hut, and they work in the field, and naturally they are hard working, very sincere, and down to the earth, and their culture, they have the tradition with them, the culture with them, and they respect and live those principles in their lives. And as you know, from the name Dukhi, it means very sorrow. Where he is a not happy man, he is a very sorrowful man. And Julia is his wife. The story opens up with a kind of situation, and they have a small daughter, and they want to have her daughter's marriage fixation. The daughter was not very elderly, and she is maybe in her in childhood. And she is, we also have taken back to the styles of where child marriage was prevalent. Naturally, before the child gets into 10 years old, and they got to be married. And these two simpletons and simple people, they try to think of and making arrangements for the things, because they want to have the betrothal. Betrothal means a marriage fixation of their daughter. They want to invite Hasiram, the priest, to their house. So they need to make arrangements. As you know, he is a guest, naturally. That too, he is a priest, naturally. The Dukhi treats this priest as a god himself. divine. So naturally, as we offer the food and we welcome the God in the same manner, they try to arrange a kind of the place where the priest can be well seated and a kind of thing. And what are the requirements for this priest? Because he is coming and they are untouchables and they have to arrange the eatables for the priest. And so Dukhi advises Julia to collect the information, all the materials and get ready. And his daughter is very young, sweet girl, lovely girl. And Julia is also a faithful, loving wife, and naturally she accepts her husband's advice. And then he goes and he says, okay, I will take the help of my neighbor and go to the shop and fetch the things. They are very, very poor, poverty stricken. They struggle a lot. And before going, and Dukhi takes the grass into a bundle and he carries it. And Julia asks, why are you carrying this for the priest? Then he said, see, when I am going to the priest, I must not go empty handed. And I must take something to him to please him and to see that the daughter's betrothal is fixed. Okay, so he wants to bring him to her house, his house, and that's why carrying it. And when before going, Julia asks, you are a little tired, what's the problem? He touches the forehead of Dukhi and feels he is terribly having high fever. Body was rather almost like a frying pan. And she says, okay, you are running high fever, how can you go this time and do that? He said, Dukhi said, no. As a father, I must go and see that the things are done, and I want to see my daughter married. And naturally, I want to bring the priest to that, and that's why. Don't worry about that. And let me go. And Julia requests him to take the breakfast and go. And Dukhi says, no, I will be late. If I start late, I will reach late, and by the time, as you know, this Ghasiram, the priest, is a very busy man. So many people will be waiting for him. And naturally, he is a divine person, I have to wait for my turn, and it will be too late for me. So, better to start early and go to the priest's house and fetch him. So, he starts his journey. And the daughter says, okay, I will also fetch the leaves to prepare the cake for taking the meal. So, naturally, the daughter says, yes, I will also do that. That shows a loving family, and taking care of each other. Wonderful, nice. And so one share of flour, half share of rice, a quarter of lentils, and ghee, salt, turmeric. So these are things he asked her to fetch it, and four anna coins that has to be kept separately. They must not touch because they are untouchables. Yeah, very conscious. Please, kindly don't touch it, because the priest is a divine person. Naturally, he will feel offended if you touch anything of his. So naturally, that's good. And and then leaf plates. I was saying to you, the lovely daughter, she says, I will be getting mahua leaves, and a nice, beautiful plate for the guests, little God. Okay, so that's the kind of preparation that the story opens up. And he goes there and he waits for his turn. Ghasiram, by the time he reaches, the priest was very busy praying God, having sindoor and sandal paste and offering the God the prayers and the rituals also strictly. And naturally, when he sees Ghasiram there, he asks, why did you come here? So why did you come here? He says, yes, Panditji, I want you to welcome to my house because my daughter's betrothal is there. You have to fix the leaf. Okay, then what about you? What about the grass, the bundle of grass? What did you bring me? Then he said, okay, keep it before the cow. Okay, go to the cow shed and the cow shed and keep the bundle there, and then the cow shed and everything is not clean. Please take a what do you call it, broom, and then clean the floor. Clean the floor very neatly. Should be tidy. It should be tidy. Okay. So if you want me to come, and you have to do all these things. Okay. You know, it was by the time he reached there, and he was tired and exhausted and running high fever. Yet, as a father, he wanted to do anything and everything for his father. He loves so much. So the key, okay. So he reiterates the kind of thing. You see, Hasiram, the priest, wearing all the kind of sacred things, and Rudraksha, Tulsi, and all the things that he is having, vermilion and everything, he waits there at the doorstep. He will not even dare to enter the premises. He has removed his footwear. Just see that, and he is barefooted, and he waits for his turn, and he says it. Okay. So the Pandit Ghasiram's house, and gave some work for him. What is the work? And here he has to plaster the room, and several days it has not been. So he has to take the cow dung and then plaster it on the floor. That is the traditional way they do that. Take hay and put it in front of the cow and fodder bin, and chop the wood. And he said that there is a big log. Log means the trunk of a tree, which is very heavy. And he says him to chop into small. Very simple job. He's for the priest, he says it's very simple. What is it? Big log is there, you have to break it into small pieces. And so that he can use it for firewood. Okay. And you remember, once again, Dukhi, what was his profession? He was a tanner. And he is only grass cutter. And naturally this kind of tasks have been given to him, and he has to do. Without whether he tries, and so Ghasiram having a lunch, and so naturally he tries to go there and do the work. And when it becomes that he starts chopping the wood, he is having an axe. He is taking an axe and trying it. That is difficult for him. He is not trying for that. And he doesn't know the technique of breaking the log into pieces. And he felt tired, so he meets his friend. Yeah, he meets his friend, and then he meets his friend, and then talks to him. He wants to refresh himself, and he says, "His friend down." He says, "It yes, I can offer you tobacco. Get the fire. If you can have the fire, you can smoke, and you can relax yourself and then work. No problem." And the Gaunt, he asks a question: when the priest is getting the work done by you, why didn't he pay for you? It's a free of labor, or free of cost. He is getting it, everything. And you asked him to come to your house, and he has to fix the date for the auspicious date for your daughter's marriage. And for that, he is getting the work done by you. Why don't you ask? He says, "How can I ask? Priest is another divine person. He is a God himself. Naturally, I can't ask anything. And whatever he says, I have to accept." He accepts it. He accepts whatever he says. Okay, and he says, "I will be do one thing. You get me tobacco and a pipe, so that I can fix the tobacco in the pipe. And I request the priestess, the wife of the Ghasiram, to give fire." And by the time when he reached there, Ghasiram was taking his lunch. Observe this carefully. And his wife, Panditayam, was serving him food. And Ghasiram suggests to her, "Why don't you think, the poor fellow has come. I don't know whether he has eaten anything or not. If you have something, a few rotis, why don't you give it to him? Then he asks, how many rotis are there? He says, it is only 2 rotis are there. And the 2 rotis will not be sufficient for this man who was hungry and doing hard work. It's a very difficult work. And he says, no, nothing to do. No, I don't want to give even those 2 things, 2 rotis also. And when he asks him to give 5, practically his Ghasiram's wife throws 5 on the person. It falls on his face. And immediately accepts it. He says it, yes. And she abuses him because he is untouchable, coming to the premises and asking for the food and the fire. And she wants to burn as well, as if lively she wants to burn him with the fire. And he accepts it, yes, it's my destiny, it's my fate that I have taken birth in an untouchable family and I am lower in my life in the society and I must thanks. Okay, he thanks her and he bows prostrate before her for throwing the fire. And then after having done, he goes there and tries to see the log and he wants to break the log. This gentleman, Ghasiram, and he goes to sleep and after having a nice stomach full of lunch and sumptuous lunch, food, and he goes to bed. And he has a son. And he goes there and sees that. And he tries to break it. He says he is struggling a lot with the axe to break that log into pieces. He can't even make a mark on it. Log is so thick and heavy, and that's why he can't do that. And his friend goes and says, you can't do this because you are not trying for that, and it requires a different skill. And then why did you accept that actually? And being a father, I have promised my wife and the daughter to get the priest, that's why I am working here. And he goes on, and after having tried so hard, for hours together, he feels very tired and exhausted. He sleeps on the floor, falls onto the floor. And then Ghasiram's son goes there and he says, Ghasiram, that what is this Dukhi, what is he doing? He inquires it. And he says, Dukhi is sleepy. And he goes and scolds him that, now, this is the work I have given to you. Before the sun sets, if you break this log into pieces, then only I come to your house. Decide. As you are a father, you decide whether you want me to come or don't want. Okay, so naturally, under compulsion, he takes it. No, take the axe and with a heavy force, you try to break it into pieces. And with anger, frustration, the kind of as a father, helplessness, and he is going on using the axe with all the force. But again, he falls on the ground, lying dead. Beside the log is dead, the key is also dead. And this news goes to his wife, and she comes running and sobbing and crying and to Ghasiram's house and to protest against this. What is this you have done? And the key was running high fever, and he was hungry. He was rather feeling very tired. And that time, such a man, you have given this heavy work, and you have taken away their life. And all the women folk, they join together and they protest. Ghasiram drives them away because he is belonging to the upper class. So naturally, and when he is dead, then naturally, what happens? Naturally, his wife says it, his dead body is in our premises, which is not sacred. It is going to be evil to them. So naturally, you have to remove it. So why don't you go to the village and ask and to get some kind of help from the tribal people or the workers. And he goes there, practically goes to that place and practically request them and see that the king is dead, please come and then help me to take the dead body from my premises. Gone, he says it, yes. Now, he alerts all the members of the village, says, don't touch the dead body. It's going to be a police case. and Ghasiram was the villain and the one who is the culprit, and because of him, the king has become a victim, and he is a dead man now, and it's a illegal case, it's a criminal case. Please don't touch that. And his own members, is a Brahmin community, also they also question, how long you will keep the dead body? Why don't you do something? So when he comes back home and his wife asks him, and what happened? He says that nobody is willing to take away the dead body. And now all the people are against me because they feel that I have done something. And his wife also rather attacks him, rather saying that you are responsible for your things. I am not responsible. And he questions her. If you have given some food for him at the time of lunch time, and he might have been felt better and then might have done his work. He didn't do that. He says, why should I do it? It's none of my business. So, naturally, ultimately what happened? Dukhi is dead. And Dukhi is dead. And naturally, he has to take a resolve. And it is becoming sunset, and naturally he has to take a decision. Then he thinks of a plan. He takes up a rope and attaches, rather makes it a loop, and rather attaches to the leg, and then pulls him, drives him to the graveyard. As the sun is setting and his dead body is dragged to the graveyard to leave it there, where jackals and fox and dogs will be tearing off his body into pieces. That is a destiny, that is a horrible, horrifying destiny. And he leaves there, amidst of the dead corpse. The skeletons are there, all the dead bodies are there, and amidst of that, he had left it, and he comes back home, Ghasiram, once again, refreshing himself with a fresh bath, and chanting the divine names, and purifying himself with the pure Gangajal, and then he once again starts his visits. It's a wonderful story, and deliverance is what is the faith? That is the why deliverance. Is it a right deliverance? If you ask a question, it's everyone who is seeing this, and actually this is a picture of this particular one story of this. Visualize the feeling, the character, the so lively, and you can't forget Dukhi and his tragic death. And with his death, all his family members, they suffer a lot. A very, very tragic death and a horrifying situation. And as you know, you are all BTech students. As you see this situation, you need to rest, because there are so many issues are there in this particular short story. Though story seems to be very short with a few characters, but each and every character is very, very, very important. You must see the short film is rendered by Satyajit Ray on this particular one. Beautiful. You will never forget. You can never forget the scene. Or you can never forget Ghasiram. You can never forget his wife and his daughter. And this is a problem here. And this is a situation. And it's not only a story. It's a story. It's not a story. But if it happens now, what happens? Who is the culprit? Who is the one who had done a mistake, killing a living man to death? And it is rather, I would like to say, the heart is burning, the blood is standing up, and makes them to think of, yes, Ghasiram was the culprit. And he is an innocent man. And so there will be a comparison between them. For example, if you compare these two characters, and he is so innocent, and he accepts the culture, he accepts the tradition blindly and never questions anyone. And even if he's ready to suffer, but never. But he is a man who is exploiting the situation. Being born in a higher, state of the family or society, and he is taking a kind of exploitation of that man's innocence, helplessness. What is a simple father, a loving father. He has sacrificed his life for his daughter. And here is the man, he wanted to take away, he is so harsh and headstrong, and thereby he dictates the person. See, this is the situation that we are facing. And you analyze the situation, you analyze the characters that are involved in that, and imagine that. And you also think of the characters there. Okay, next tale also. Okay. Fever, okay. The next is like yeah, you see this? Yeah. See, she is the priestess and Khasiram meeting, and he is a god. He is a man. It was and as you see this particular story, it's really compare this lady with that of the Juria, is the wife of her. She is so faithful, loyal, and make her husband happy, and she is doing all the things. What about her? And though she is feeding her husband, but never worried about another person as a human being at all, and treating untouchable. Untouchability is the black mark on humanity, and the one who suffers there. And here is the God who questions that. Okay, you are doing this. And why should you do? He is a rational person. He questions everything. Yeah, why should you talk? Why don't you ask? A kind of a voice of a revolt and questioning the exploitation is there in him. But he is a good friend and he is a helpful friend. And naturally, at time of need, he comes to his help. And rather, he tries to make him comfortable. And at the end also, he is a man who is arousing the attention of the people, the society, to raise a voice against the exploitation of the Brahmins on the untouchables. And he unifies everyone. Though the character is very small, but the character has so much insight into it. And that's why every word he speaks, it is having some value. And he is a very brave man, but he is very meek, and he surrenders. And the priest is the God, and here is the one. Okay, so Dukhi felt very dizzy, but still he went to trying that he thought that he had a pipe full of tobacco, I was saying to you, and smoke, then perhaps. And he wanted to get refreshed, and he asked Gaund, he is the man, and to give some tobacco. And he says, give him tobacco and pipe, both, and had no fun. And no problem, he says, I will go to Pandit house and then I'll get it. Okay, so this is the kind of thing that you have. And then what happened? And this is going on, though it is a story of one day, but you see the kind of thing that you have got it. And you see, here is a man. Yeah, this is a log. See how much heavy log is there. And he is taking an axe and tries to break into pieces, which is impossible because neither he is a woodcutter, nor he is only grass cutter, or he is only a tanner. He doesn't know. He only knows how to cut the grass. Each work has a certain skill required, and he has given this work to him, assigned his work to him, and which is impossible for him. And you see that Chukuri leaves, and Dukhi goes to bring the sacks of straw, as he was unable to break the wood, and he brings sacks into two efforts and falls asleep tired. Pandit wakes him up and to find Dukhi sleeping near the straw and the wood uncut, remember that. And he shouts at the tanner for not taking the care of the wood. Dukhi wakes up and then grabs the axe and makes a final effort, which is a helpless effort. And all the anger, frustration and exploitation, he tries so hard. He fails badly and miserably he falls. And at the time when the thing happened, there was a heavy downpour. And naturally, this news of his death goes to his wife. His wife comes with the other women folk of that particular village, and they plead and they fight. Nothing. They don't even respond. They shout at him. Because why? What happened to him? Why my husband is dead? Why did you give such a kind of word? He questions him. So, Premchand when he is writing this particular story, has kept the idea of rather revolt by the women. Now, women folk, they have got women empowerment is there, women have their voice and to raise their voice against the exploitation, any kind of exploitation, and they can go. And exploiting the tribal people is a social crime. That should not be. So naturally, this is going to be a crime, and they are going to rise above. And that awakening she has given. Though her plea, the anger and the cry, hue and the cry has no result, but thing is a suggestion. Yes, it's going to happen in future. If this happens in the present day situation, the things will be different. And naturally, all the women folk might have stood by her and fought for justice, fighting for justice that is required, and which is injustice rather. So that's the kind of thing. Okay. And okay, yeah, he comes and sees that. Okay, some mysterious forces are driving him, and he gave all his strength and axe. And you see that mysterious strength. He is not having the strength. Inner strength is there because of the anger, frustration, and he takes it. For half an hour, he repeatedly struck the wood. He felt the words of the brave Brahmin were giving him power. Finally, the knot breaks and the axe falls from his hands. That is the last sight of his life. He too falls down out of the exhaustion and becomes unconscious, and he died while chopping. So tragic. Okay, so all the villagers saw that the king is died in Pandit's garden, in the house. No tanner came to get the corpse, and how could Brahmin lift that untouchable body, dead body? Untouchable, dead body. Both are thought to be sin for them. Okay, Pandit Grasiram got an idea, got out a rope and got a rope, and he made a noose. Noose means a hook like that, and managed to get over the dead man's feet and drew to right. And then Pandit grabbed the rope and began to drag it until it was out of the graveyard, and where his body was eaten by the jackals, fox, dogs, and so miserable everything. And so he goes home and offers prayers to Goddess Durga, and he sprinkles the Ganges water, and then he sanctifies it. So this is the kind of thing that you have it. This particular story has so many dimensions, sociological dimensions, and the cultural dimensions, and the ethics. I say somebody comes to your house at time of noon, at time of let me say that noon time, you offer him food. Atithi Devo Bhava. Whoever is Atithi, Atithi means guest, he is a God to you. God has come to your house in the form of a man. Why don't you see the God here? If that might have been, then that situation might have been different. At least the lady should have been like Goddess Annapurna. Annapurna and the Shiva's wife. Goddess Shiva's wife. Who is offering food to the people hungry. Such a woman should have been Annapurna, has become has taken away the life. How could she be so heartless, soulless, and not even having pity on the people who are needy? And here it's a wonder, and there's a kind of thing that we feel about it. If she might have given some food, Dukhi might have remembered her and honored her and respected her as a goddess, living goddess. God is nowhere, God is here in the family, and the priest and the priestess might have become the god and goddesses. But that has not been. And even the attitude of the people, the kind of social stigma they have got, and the class distinctions were got, and untouchability, which is a crime now. And in those days, rather, it was so prevalent because the Orthodox society has been given the kind of a prestige to them and to govern the society. Instead of what is Brahman? Brahman means Brahma Jnana, God's power, God's knowledge should be there. You must be divine in your mind, heart and soul. God is always kind, but He is unkind. Though He is physically practicing the God ritual, it is only ritual, but never lived those prayers. And he is praying the goddess Durga. Durga means Shakti, and Durga is Parvati. Durga is Lakshmi. Durga is Saraswati. And when such a kind of things are there, why that the spirit of religion, spirituality has not come to you? Though he was born in Brahmin family, but there is no the Brahman is not. So that is the kind. And other side, the one who is meekly accepting whatever atrocities are going on, exploitation is going on, accepting, surrendering, and never questioning it is a problem. So, if something injustice is going on, you have to raise the voice. Maybe ours, maybe the speech may be very meek and but one day it is going to be sound. So that's the kind of thing that he should have been. And whereas the government was having it, the revolutionary thinking and modern thinking, how it should have been. Even the government, when they are giving the work for the laborers and daily laborers, they pay for them, they feed them. And here is the man who is giving the work but never had given him food, which is an inhuman treatment. Once again, inhuman treatment. That's a way. And what about the daughter? Daughter is so loving and she is ready to do everything and anything and everything for their parents. And she wants to make her father, mother happy. A happy family. A wife who is loving. A loving mother and loving wife. And Vicky also, a caring father and a loving father. He is ready to do anything and everything at the altar of life. Just see, any father who is loving his daughter is like that. And this story gives to that kind of insight in life. Whereas the other side, you see, the man has to be very alive. And this raises a number of questions. That's why it's not a simple story of narrating incidents. Incidents are only means, but that has to make you to think. And in modern times, how are we going to solve this problem? If this happens now, government might have gone to police and lodged a complaint. That's one way, because all the untouchables are united, raising their voice and against Khasiram, who has taken on the land, which was a criminal act. Who was a murderer. In broad daylight, he murdered a living man to death. That was a crime, and that might have. And other side, as I said to you, there was a particular incident where his wife goes there and collects a woman folk and goes to the priest's house, and the priest and priestess, they confine themselves, lock them up, and then never open even the gate. And his wife, she throws the stones and she cries, shouts and sobs at him and cries there. There is a heavy downpour of rain. Even the air cries. Even the skies cry. This is a situation. And even the nature also is responding. Why not human being? Human being is so insensitive not to able to respond to this. And this is a kind of thing that rouses the passion, and that we need to want. And if this happens now, the things will be different. All women folk that have the voice against the injustice, and they go for justice. And even this the government, which is rather not aristocratic, orthodox, no, it is now changes are coming, and even now society changes are coming, and untouchability is treated rather. There was a huge fight that was done by Mahatma Gandhi, and Mulkraj Anand's untouchable you must read. Mulkraj Anand's Hooli you must read. There you will see that the kind of untouchable. And even the other short stories, stories written by the other people. And really, they make the people. That's why Gandhi's fight was against the untouchability. He said, untouchability is a block or bad mark or block on humanity. And all are born human. We are all human beings first. We are the sons and daughters of the God. And they are to be treated with respect and love and care. And that is a kind of fight. And the changes he brought it. And even premchand, through his stories, he brought that revolution, awakening the society. The best literature is the one which awakens the people from the deep sleep and realizes that what is happening and makes them to think and empowers them to fight against the exploitation. That is the main purpose of this particular one, that you have got deliverance. Deliverance is rather after the death, the soul is joined the God, divine soul, and that is the deliverance. And true deliverance is it easy? God is really true deliverance. Though the title has been deliverance, but it's not so. It's very pathetic. His death was pathetic, miserable, horrifying, and terrific. And really, it stirs the people deep into their blood. The blood stirs up, and even a heart boils, and then rises. Wanted to rise the voice against this. When you see witness such a kind of thing that is happening. So these are the things that are there in this particular story, and that's why we have to see it minutely and see the picture, 38 days picture, a short film. Wonderfully, you will enjoy it. A beautiful story, and the characters I have just shown you, they are there in there, and you must develop a kind of analytical thinking. So story is the story part of the content is there, and how you reflect it, how you respond to it, how you think of and how you want to stop this, and you have your own way of stopping this kind of thing, that atrocities done by the higher caste on the lower caste, and that should be once again I repeat the story in brief once again, and the story starts with the curtain rises. The story starts with Vicky and his wife Julia working in the field. They live in a small village. Vicky was a tanner. Tanner means the one who is working with the skin and providing skin for goblins. And his wife Julia is very simple, and they have a small cottage, a hut, and the girl was a small girl, maybe 7 years or 8 years old. Once again, that also reminds us in those days childhood marriages were prevalent. So he rose voice against that also. So here, child marriage. So what is the crisis? What is the problem? The problem is the Dukhi and Jhuriya, they want to fix their daughter's marriage, and so they want to invite Ghasiram to their house. They make all the arrangements, sitting, offering, food, money, everything. They are ready, and though they don't have it, they want to borrow it from someone and then get it and make all the arrangements so that there is no complaint. Because they treat Ghasiram as a god himself. God is coming to their house. And when he is going, Jhuriya touches the forehead of the Dukhi, finds he is having high fever. High fever. Skin was almost burning. And naturally, and he is very weak. And she says, why don't you take the breakfast and go? No, he says, if I take the breakfast, I will be late. Ghasiram will be a busy man, and people will be waiting at him at his house. Naturally, I will be late if I go late. With empty stomach, he goes, picking up a bundle of grass, because he goes to the grave. Why are you taking the bundle of grass here? He says, being untouchable, I can't go to priest empty hand. Whenever you are going to priest or small children or elderly people, don't go empty hand. You have to offer something. And here he takes a bundle of grass as offering. And he goes there, stands at the doorsteps, wait for his turn. Ghasiram was very busy in his rituals. After completing his rituals, he turns to him, why are you coming? Then he says, this is a problem, and I want to invite you to my family so that we can fix the betrothal date and muhurta. So he says, okay, if you want to do that, he assigns him the work. First is cleaning the floor, putting the fodder into the cow shed, and then plastering it to the floor and coming back, and there is a lawn. And he wants him to break into small pieces so that he can use it as a firewood. And at the noon time, he feels it, he tries his level best and he gets very tired. He meets his friend Gaun and expresses his problem. And Gaun suggests him, why don't you have tobacco and the hookah, so that I can provide you hookah and tobacco. You have to need to get the fire. He goes there once again to Ghasiram's house and requests the priestess to give the fire. She curses him, and at that time Ghasiram was taking lunch, and he suggests his wife to offer some kind of food for him. Any rotis are left out, and he says no, nothing. Though there are two rotis are there, but it is not sufficient for this man. So I will not give anything. And she throws the fire, burning fire on his face. He picks it up and prostrates. He says, "It is my fate that I have come. I have done a mistake. I have done a sin. That's why I have come over here." And he takes it and goes to the world, and he tries to break the log into pieces, but fails miserably. And he, because he is having high fever, very weak and weak, and he prostrates. He dies dead on the floor. The last scene is unforgettable. There is a log, dead log, dead body. Dead log, dead body. The man who was want to break the log into pieces had also become dead. And his Ghasiram's son goes and reports. Then he comes and tries to mow him with his stick, but he realizes that the Dukhi was dead. He says it okay. He communicates to his family, and his family comes fighting, sobbing, crying, and it's a soul-stirring scene where you see his wife comes in her tears and tatters and cries and helplessly, and no one to help her. Even they don't even open the doors, and she cries miserably for her family, and she questions it. And when his wife, priestess' wife, asked him to take away the dead body, then naturally he goes to the labourer colony and requests the people to come and help him out to remove the dead body. But Gaund Alonso is a crime. The criminal is there. Ghasiram was a criminal. He has taken away life of Dukhi. Naturally, you can't leave him scot-free. So he has to be punished. If you touch, then you will have to face the police inquiry. The police will arrest you. That's the warning he gives. And then once again he comes back and helplessly, and his own community people. And you see, there is an image of Ravana. Whenever you see the priest, whenever he is going to his village, there is a picture, a statue of Ravana. Ravana was symbolically he has kept it, and he was also high priest, good administrator, but miserable and having all evils in his mind. And at the end, rather, he thinks of a plan to get rid of his body. He takes up a rope, makes it a loop, and then takes it to graveyard. The scene was so stirring as he is pulling the dead body with the rope, and the sun was setting, and really it's miserable. And he leaves that dead body amidst of the dead bodies and skeletons and all the skulls, horrifying scene, and jackals and fox and the howl and the dogs, they tear open the body and eat the flesh. It is a horrifying scene. He comes back and takes a holy bath, prays Durga, goddess Durga, and sprinkles Ganga, holy Ganga. He is going to purify his soul. It is a question. The story ends there. And he is a normal person, but just see, you can never forget Dukhi, you can never forget Dhirya, you can never forget Ghasiram, you can never forget the Panditain, and you can never forget the Gaund. Really, this is a literature which Americans must think of. So literature, story is not only story, it gives you a message, and to make you to think what is right, what is wrong. That is wisdom. It is not only reading for the content. Content is knowledge, but we need to have the wise people to move ahead. Because as you are technical students, as you come learning English language, through English language, you are to be socially conscious, emotionally conscious, and you must be a problem solver. And how to solve this problem if it happens to you in your jurisdiction, and how are you going to bring the justice? And it gives everyone to empower. Just think of That's why great literature is the one which awakens the people. And Premchand is such a kind of wonderful story writer. He had done innumerable number of stories, and he had become a name in not only in India, entire world. And he belongs to British style, but even today he is very practicable, and rather the people read him and enjoy and also understand the situations, and it is relevant even today. That's why this particular piece has been provided to you to make you think as a student, a dynamic student, a sensitive student, a problem-solving student, and how you are to see their problems and then become rather take a wise decisions and be a good leader, a thought leader, emotional leader, and see that the justice is done. Thank you so much. And go through the kind of the short films that I have given you, and I will also give you a short film, and you also go through it and go through the questions there. The really very wonderful questions, really, that makes you to think and visualize this in your mind's eye. Hope you enjoy the lesson, and wish you and we'll be continuing our lesson. Thank you.